So we're starting off day one, WWE 2000, January 2006. We're using the Shifting Sands mod from Mammoth. I got this over on the Grey Dog software website. A lot of their stuff with their dynasties over there. I'm used to calling them diaries. I played Extreme Warfare, Revenge. I think it was just Extreme Warfare. I played a lot of the Adam Ryland games up into Total Extreme Wrestling, but I've never done anything as far as like a video diary or video dynasty. I don't know what I'll end up calling this, but I really enjoyed the idea of the games. I enjoy the idea of booking my own worlds, and I saw this mod starting in 2006, and this was such a great time in wrestling, especially for me. It was the year that I went to my very first WrestleMania. 2006 was WrestleMania 22 in Chicago. I actually went to WrestleMania 23 as well. It's the only two I've been to. But I was like, man, this would be so cool to go back to that time. So much stuff is going on. So right now, off to our right-hand side, you'll see all the storylines that come active in the 2006 mod. So we have Edge versus Ric Flair. Ric Flair is the current Intercontinental Champion. We'll look through the championships here in a second and just kind of set up what is going on in our game world in this first episode. But we have Edge versus Ric Flair. Edge is chasing Ric Flair's Intercontinental title. There was like some stuff going on. I ended up watching back the last few months on the network of 2005 to catch up with this. But Ric Flair, I guess, had a road rage incident in the news, and Edge was kind of making fun of that. And there were some really funny vignettes. Now, this is like pre-Edge cashing in his Money in the Bank contract, and then the live sex celebration, which was like a huge moment in wrestling. So I don't know how I'm going to tackle that. I will be keeping some elements of like the early 2006 stuff, so it's not just completely changed from what was happening at the time. We had the Elimination Chamber mix-up. Carlito, Chris Masters, John Cena, Kane, Kurt Angle, and Shawn Michaels. All these guys were in the Elimination Chamber match that'll happen this first week. I'm not sure if I'm going to have this change too much because it happens within the first week of January. I may change the outcome of who wins, but otherwise I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with this storyline because it pretty much ends in this first week of January. So I'm not quite sure how we're going to handle that, but we'll be jumping into that in just a minute. We have Triple H versus the Big Show. Big Show is also one half of the World Tag Team Champions at this point, and they had a little bit of a beef going into the Elimination Chamber. Actually, these have builds in here from the mod, which is pretty good. But my favorite part is where Triple H attacked Big Show's hand, and he had a cast on and just lays him out with this giant cast because Big Show size cast is huge. Trish Stratus versus Mickie James. This is crazy Mickie James when she comes in as Trish's biggest fan. A great moment in wrestling history. Vince McMahon versus HBK. This has just started in the end of 2005, so this is actually a pretty fresh storyline as far as that goes. Leads up to one of my favorite matches of all time, and like I said, I actually got to be there with Vince McMahon facing off against HBK at WrestleMania 22, which was awesome. I got to watch the elbow drop live and in person, which is one of the coolest moments ever. So I don't know how I'll build that up, but I may keep that going in the direction that it's going just because it was such a great moment in wrestling history for me. We have over on SmackDown, Batista versus Mark Henry. Mark Henry, this storyline again is pretty fresh, just came in at the end of the year 2005 and interrupted a tag team match giving Eminem the titles back. And then it kind of leads into the World Championship feud that happens after that. But in Real World 2006, Batista ends up getting injured very early on in 2006 and gives up his title. Hopefully, we won't get an injury on the Animal in our first week booking matches here for our diary or dynasty, and we can actually go forward with this feud a little bit more. Now, one of the ones that I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with here is Booker T versus Chris Benoit. Of course, if you are a wrestling fan, you know the tragic end of Chris Benoit. Now, I'm really torn on this. It's kind of a dark subject to talk about in the first episode, but it's something we're gonna have to tackle earlier rather than later because he is a major part of the timeline here in WWE 2006, especially because they're basically in the middle of a best of 7 series for the United States Championship, and it's like a huge storyline at the time. Also, Chris Benoit at this point in time was my favorite wrestler in the world, and I actually got to meet him at WrestleMania 22 as one of the highlights of my life, and now is one of the saddest moments, knowing what he would go on to do. So I'm trying to decide what I want to do with that. I'm gonna just treat it as usual for right now, and then we'll see, if maybe I just have him quietly retire, or I don't know. It's an odd situation, and when you're dealing with these fantasy bookings, it's kind of cool because some characters you're like, oh, X character may have passed away, but they're still alive in the diary. I can see what they do. Or Edge, of course, has his career-ending injury coming up. So barring his him having an injury again, hopefully I can book out his career for long after that. But with something with Benoit, like what happens there, I don't know how to tackle that. In our last feud here, which is actually the lowest in heat, is Paul Marcanen versus Teddy Long. With this, it's basically an authority figure battle behind the scenes. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with this. Paul Marcanen, I thought he was a really cool character at the time. I believe he left the WWE because of like bullying or something. I'm not quite sure why he left, but I was really interested in his character. I thought he was going to be a really cool addition to SmackDown, and he was there for quite a few months, but he never really made as big of an impact as I thought he would. But we'll see how that goes, because I did enjoy his character, but again, it wasn't something that was like super hot at the time. Right now, King of the Ring, which does come back in 2006 and is won by Booker T. I really enjoyed the King Booker aspect of the King of the Ring. I thought that was really cool. The WWE champion is currently John Cena. It's currently a prestige, so that's good. We're going to try to keep that up. This is still kind of like hip-hop John Cena, but not quite Doctor of Thugonomics John Cena. It's when he's changing into his like Superman type gimmick. The Cruiserweight Championship right now is on Kid Cash. I really enjoyed his deal with the Mexicools there when he went up against Juventud and kind of feuded with them, was beating up. I know he had a really good match with Super Crazy. I know it was shortly after this, I believe it was in the first week of January, that Juventud Guerrero was actually released from WWE. That will not be happening, I'll tell you that right away. I won't be releasing him. I am a fan. I do like his style of wrestling, but I am a big fan of Kid Cash as well. I think this prestige of C can really go up. I was a huge fan of the Cruiserweight Championship in WCW, like the Cruiserweight division. I always felt like WWE dropped the ball, and now with 205 Live, I still feel like it's something that's kind of pushed aside or not as showcased as it should be. So hopefully that's something I can build up. The Intercontinental Champion, like we talked about before, is Ric Flair. C plus prestige just seems so low for such like a workhorse title. I've always felt that the Intercontinental Championship was the real belt for a long time, for old school WWE, WWF. The Intercontinental Champion was normally the one that I looked up to even more than the World Heavyweight Champion. So hopefully we can build up the prestige on that. Another thing I want to focus on is tag team wrestling. Some of my favorite moments in wrestling history were tag team moments. I do want to build up a lot of the tag team scene in the WWE, because in this current time we have like the Dicks, we have the Heartthrobs, the Jim and I just came in, we have Kane and Big Show on one brand, M&M is probably one of the biggest teams going right now. We had the Mexicools with Super Crazy and Psychosis. C Prestige, hoping to make that go up a little bit. I don't know which brand is going to have the stronger tag teams, but we'll look into that. Right now, the United States Championship is vacant. It's only because there's currently a best of 7 series with Benoit and Booker T. C plus Prestige. The United States title I see around as like a B Prestige title, so that's not too bad, especially because it's vacant right now. The Women's Championship, we have a C Prestige on. It's Trish Stratus. Huge fan of Trish. I think she's really great. But we did have some really good wrestlers in the biz at this point. We had Trish Stratus, we had Lita, Victoria. The ladies in pink were really good. Candice Michelle, Tori Wilson. So there are some people out there that can get it done in the ring that actually hopefully we can build on and maybe have a stronger women's division. The TNA Knockouts division, which I think was really what put women's wrestling on the map, I don't believe started until 2007. So I may wait until around 2007 to really start pushing women's wrestling, because I feel like that's when WWE should have really changed their style, or I may just change it early. I don't know. We'll see. But I do see the women's division as being something that is stronger than it seemed at the time. The World Heavyweight Champion we have on Batista. Like I said, normally, or in the real world in 2006, he lost his belt, I think, in early 2006, early January. So that's something that hopefully he won't get injured right away. I really enjoyed Batista and his role. I enjoyed him and Rey Mysterio working together. But hopefully we can keep Batista going on as champion, at least for a little while, and get that feud with Mark Henry really going. The World Tag Team Champions, we have Big Show and Kane. Now, when I was thinking about this, I was like, man, I don't really remember them as a team. They didn't really stick out to me that much, in my memory. So when going back and watching on the network, they actually work really well together. I actually really enjoyed them together as a team. Because initially, when I looked through this, it's like, I'm going to end up dropping them. I'm not going to keep the titles on them. They're just a thrown together team. Which, I mean, in reality, they're just two big dudes. They're individuals. They're not really like a team. But they do work well together as a team, and I really enjoy them. So I may keep the belts on them for a while. C+ prestige we definitely need to work on. Hopefully get these belts up to at least a B prestige. So our current teams, 3 Minute Warning, I don't think we're an active team at this point, because I thought Rosie had already done his superhero theme, but I'll have to look into that. Batista and Mysterio, they had just lost the tag titles, and then Batista ended up going out injured right after that. So hopefully we can continue them as a team a little bit. Big Show and Kane. Kane and Murdoch, I was a fan of. I really enjoyed them. I thought they were pretty good. Ladies in pink, like I talked about, I really enjoyed them as a unit. Legion of Doom with Heidenreich. I believe Heidenreich was released early 2006 as well. I don't know what I'm going to do with that. I was never a huge fan of Animal and Heidenreich, but I like the idea of the Legion of Doom living on. London and Kendrick, I was a huge fan of. So, I mean, obviously I'm going to have a bias towards their push. I believe this point in time is when they really started heating up. M&M, of course, are basically the number one team in the company right now, in my opinion. Snitsky and Tomko, a newer team, really enjoyed them. I always thought Tomko kind of got the short end of the stick in the WWE. The Dicks, I mean, they're not bad, but I was never a big fan of the shtick that they had. Full-blooded Italians, Nunzio and Vito, they're good. I was an ECW fan, not a huge fan of them as a tag team. Jim and I just got brought in. I don't know if they actually even debuted yet, or if they debuted in early 2006. I know it was brand new. They came in with Simon Dean. The Heartthrobs, again, kind of another throwaway team for me. I wasn't a huge fan of them, but they were a decent squash team, I guess. The McMahons. The Mexicools I was a big fan of. I was actually kind of sad they went down. I was never into the huge, like, gimmicky kind of Mexican stereotype team. But I did really enjoy them as a team. I thought they were all great. Spirit Squad. Spirit Squad is supposed to debut here in the middle of January, I believe, 2006. I will not be having the Spirit Squad come into the WWE, at least if I do, not in the way that it was originally. Then we have Val Venus and Viscera, fan of both. Val Venus we might be using in a different direction. I always thought he could have done more in the company. So with stables, we don't have very many right now. Evolution is currently inactive. Ladies in Pink is a 3-person group over on Raw. Candice, Michelle, Tori Wilson, and Victoria. M&M, I don't even really consider a stable. It's basically just Mercury and Nitro with Melina as a manager. Mexicools, another 3-man group. And then the Spirit Squad, which, as I said, won't be coming in. And if they do, it won't be in the way that they did and with the members that they had. But the Spirit Squad, as we know it, won't be coming in. So let's go to our creative meeting. This is day 1. I haven't made any changes, haven't done anything. I have gone into the game roll to make sure like the picture files and everything were in there. I am, of course, I think a lot of people who do the fantasy booking go with kind of a youth movement, at least early on. I will be hanging on to Ric Flair and The Undertaker but they definitely will be playing a lesser role. Ric Flair is our current Intercontinental Champion. I just don't see him staying in that role for very long. Our next big things, we got Nikki, aka, as we know him now, Dolph Ziggler or Nick Nemeth. I'm a huge fan of this. I am so great. I'm so great. I'm so happy. It is so great that he is on our next big things, because I always felt like, the Dolph Ziggler name never did him favors. After the Spirit Squad, which also I don't feel like did him any favors. Also, he spent some time as, I think, Kerwin White's caddy. So none of the roles that he really had in the company I felt suited him for superstardom. Hot prospects. Sean Daivari. Daivari at this point, I believe, was managing Kurt Angle, but I always thought he was really good in the ring. I was surprised they didn't do more with him. Brian Kendrick, huge fan, like I said, of London and Kendrick. So I'm glad he's on the top of our hot prospects. Ashley Massara, I was also a fan of in the women's division. I thought she was really good. Somebody you could kind of push. I don't know if we can necessarily build the division around her, but we still have Trish in there. We still have Lita, because this is before Lita leaves the company. Lance Cade, another person I thought was really good. I enjoyed him and Murdoch together. Finley, past his prime, but hasn't debuted yet. I think they were still doing vignettes in 2005 for him. So that's interesting that he hasn't even technically debuted yet on the roster. But he's in Time Decline, so that's fun. All right, so hidden gems. Now this is where we get into the interesting stuff of booking a new company. So some people have different rules that they set beforehand, what they will and won't do to make the game world realistic. Now, I always try to hire the hidden gems. Like I always go out of my way in the beginning of the game to hire whoever the hidden gems are, at least the top 5 of them. Christian, I always thought was really dumb that they let him go. Personally, I thought he was great. His contract lapsed, like they forgot about it or something. I always thought he was really, really good. 49.30. I will gladly give you what you want to come back to the WWE. I missed you, Christian. Come on back. So we've made offers to all 5 of our hidden gems here. We'll see what they say. Christian is definitely one of the biggest ones that I want back. R-Truth, I think, Ron Killings, when he comes back to the company. I'm not sure when he came back as R-Truth, but either way, always thought that he was a great entertainment character, especially for the type of company I'm building here. Colt Cabana, I felt like he never got a great run with the company for as talented as he is. Kind of got sidelined with that Scotty Goldman gimmick. And never, as much as he made it entertaining, he never really got it off the ground. Samoa Joe, of course, is a big force on the roster right now, current United States champion and modern day WWE. But I always felt like he could have joined much earlier into the company. I liked him a lot. He was a big staple of TNA. Trent Acid, like I said, that is the one that I don't really know very much about. I think I saw him in a documentary. Don't know much about him, but we'll see how he works if he comes in a developmental. I did make one change. I put Mr. Kennedy on here because he was doing some commentary on SmackDown in the beginning of 2006, so I made sure to add him on here. I liked the idea of that while he was out. Speaking of, we can go to medical and check these. We have Booker T out. Hardcore Holly's out for 8 months. Jim Ross is out. Mr. Kennedy is out, but can continue working. Or they can do angles. Yeah. Booker T can continue doing angles. Rob Van Dam can continue doing angles. Now, Mr. Kennedy, I can try to give him surgery. We also have Stacy Keibler out and Stephanie McMahon out on maternity leave, and Stacy Keibler is recording a movie. So that's always good. Maybe that'll raise her popularity. I'm not sure if it does that, but it should. Okay, so let's see. Can we turn 4 months and 2 weeks down to something shorter? It's medium risk. Start surgery. Yes. Oh no! Due to failure, he has a longer recovery time. How long is he out now? From 4 months to 6 months. That at 2 months. All right. Well, so Ken Kennedy is going to be on commentary for quite a while here. Maybe that'll up his commentary value because it wasn't that high when I looked. But of course, it didn't work out very well. I think that's all we really have to look at for this first episode here. All right, so that's going to be it for day 1. Let's go ahead and push this forward. Okay. Now, oh, we already had a backstage incident. Oh, man. Come on, we already had a locker room incident. Okay. Well, this is going to be a good place to end off for day one. We got a good idea where we're starting out as a company. We offered some contracts out to 5 different people. We went over the state of the WWE at this point and kind of what I want to do going forward. Like it says on the screen here, who would you like to get a push? Let me know in the comments down below. And with episode 2, we'll start off with booking our very first show, the very first show of 2006. And also find out about this locker room incident. Even though our backstage rating is 100%, we'll find out what happened in the locker room. But thanks for watching. Leave a comment, like it if you did, sub if you don't already, and I'll see you soon in the next one. Bye.